Programme. The Queen is opening the Welsh Assembly today. A couple of months ago, the people of Wales decided in favour of granting it a whole new set of law-making powers. In Scotland, of course, the SNP now have an overall majority and they're very busy planning a referendum on independence. So, with all that going on, is it a little bit surprising that there are so few calls from MPs at Westminster for an English Parliament? Well, Giles Dilnot has been finding out.
Oh, good shot. Really, what could be more English? Cricket, tweed, outdoors. But then Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland have plenty of open space. The Scots make tweed and the Welsh play cricket. Isn't that the problem with Englishness? It's actually very hard to define.
Englishness, unlike many other national identities, has never really been defined by the state, by politicians, by people like me in buildings like the one behind me. It's been a much more organic process, and I think that's a good thing.
When it comes to defining it, you've got to sit down and work out, well, it's not just cream teas and last night of the proms and all of that. But obviously there is something which is English, because what's happening is that more and more people are defining themselves as English as opposed to British.
Now, as we speak, Her Majesty is visiting Wales, and Wales has its own assembly. So does Northern Ireland. Scotland has a parliament, and who knows, may one day be independent. And amidst all of this, politicians are beginning to wonder, where is the English voice in the mother of all parliaments?
The basis of the fact that Scottish, Welsh and Northern Irish MPs can vote on purely English matters is actually an affront to democracy, and it happens nowhere else in a democracy I know.
That does make me very frustrated, but I don't want my national identity to be created from a feeling of resentment and frustration. Let's fix this problem with goodwill, and let's fix this problem not by resenting what Scotland and Wales have, but by making sure that England has the same sort of devolved local decision-making that they now enjoy.
And that's really the problem, isn't it? Is the answer to the lack of an English voice in Parliament an English Parliament?
The chances of the Scottish, Welsh and Northern Ireland assemblies being abolished now, I think, is minuscule. So they're here to stay, and if you've got those, you've got to have a fair solution for the people of England, and a fair solution is an English Parliament. If there's an English committee, first of all, then so be it.
There's no appetite for an English Parliament. There's actually no appetite in Scotland for completely cutting the links with the rest of the UK. We saw the referendum in the northeast when we tried to establish regional government. There was no appetite for that.
I'm personally very sceptical of the idea of an English Parliament. I think that would in effect be an English regional assembly writ large, and we don't want that. It would mean more politicians, more talking. Why not have 40-something English parliaments that already exist? They're called counties. We've had them for many, many years. They've all got a pre-existing local assembly, a local identity. Why not give Essex Council, for example, in my part of the world, the same sort of powers that the Welsh Assembly or the Scottish Parliament has?
But if an English Parliament isn't the answer to addressing the concerns of English constituents, then what does do that has left most of them stumped. That is a very good shot.
That was Giles Dilnot there. Billy Bragg.
Big battery.
I know. Oh. Billy Bragg, famously you sang a song half English. Is it about time that there was a parliament that was wholly English?
Well, it is an anomaly. I mean, of all the teams playing in the the European Championship qualifiers at the weekend, England was the only country that doesn't have a representative assembly or a parliament. So it clearly is an anomaly. But for the MPs talking there, I think they suffer from a problem that many of us have, which is that we can't imagine an English parliament alongside the Westminster Parliament. And my concern would be, if there was to be an English Parliament, would that be any more representative of me, a Parliament of 50 million people compared to the current Parliament of 65 million people?
And you're somebody who makes it a point of interest to look into these things and think about these things. By and large, the general public just don't care, do they? I mean, you gave them sort of the option to talk about regional assemblies. Nobody got that excited about it.
That's true, but the regional assembly in the northeast wasn't really much more than a jumped-up quango. I think if you were actually going to have proper regional assemblies and deal with this issue in that way, I think if you gave, in the southwest where I live, if you gave a regional assembly there the same powers as Scotland, people would bite your arm off for that. If it was something with real teeth, I think what's been on offer so far has been so watered down, it's not been worth having.
So in the Bragg world, I mean, you were talking about how reforms a little earlier in the programme. Would you say then that Welsh MPs and those in Scotland with constituents in Scotland should just have no say at all in what goes on in
No,
health
but I
reform?
think that the
But
sort
why
of
no? Why no?
Well, I think what we're talking about here, basically, I totally recognise Scotland and Wales are countries. We're talking about a form of localism here. I think that people want. If we had the decisions made on health and particularly care for our old people, which is Scotland has control of, in the southwest for the southwest, I think people would want that, would vote for that.
If Scottish, Welsh and Northern Irish MPs did not vote on purely English matters, like education, which is purely English matters, then that would in effect be an English Parliament, wouldn't it?
It would, in effect, be an English Parliament, but it would...
For these issues?
Well, I don't think it would, actually. I think that, we're talking about, the localism is a very important issue. And in a globalised economy, you need to make people feel that their local identity, whether it's a national identity in Scotland or a local identity in a region, cannot just be swept away by the tide of globalism. So a little bit more decisions being made locally, particularly planning decisions, educational decisions, made closer to where you live, regionally, rather than, where would you put the English Parliament? York, somewhere like that?
I mean, just very, very briefly, is there an embarrassment about saying, I'm English and I want an English Parliament? Is that
No,
why? Is it a
no, I
tainted
don't think
thing?
it's that. I think the problem is that we can't quite yet understand the difference between what it means to be British and English. The Scots have managed to do that, the Welsh have managed to do that, and the thing about English is we're going to have to confront this anyway. If the Scots do go for independence, we're going to more or less be independent as well, so we need to start thinking about this.
OK, Billy, thanks. We'll leave it there.